All right. Well, first, I just want to welcome everyone to this Mets virtual affiliate caravan that New York's been so kindly to help us put on here in Syracuse. Happy to have all the media here. Hard to believe we're just a couple of months away from opening day. So just going to introduce all of the people we have on this call. First, we have New York Mets team president Sandy Alderson, New York Mets general manager Billy Eppler, newly named New York Mets manager Buck Showalter, New York Mets director of minor league operations Ronny Reyes, executive director of minor league facilities Paul Taglieri, Syracuse Mets general manager Jason Smorrell, and we also have New York Mets vice president of communications Harold Kaufman and senior director of communications Ethan Wilson on this call as well. One person who is not on, manager Kevin Bowles. He had a family emergency come up, so unfortunately he's not on this call, but we have plenty of others who will be more than happy to answer questions, and we'll be sure to set something up with Kevin as we move forward. So thanks again for being here. Thank you to all the New York Mets executives that we have here. And as the media knows, we sent out a bit of a sneak preview of some of the promotions and ticket information that we have for this upcoming season. And for more on that, I'll turn it over to Jason Smorrell.
Thank you, Michael. It's a great day. I want to thank the Mets. I want to thank Sandy and Billy and Buck for making themselves available to ourselves and the media up here. It just really is exciting right now for us going into this season, the 2022 season. The excitement of the new general manager, obviously the excitement of Buck Showalter, is really creating a buzz here in Syracuse. Everybody that I talked to anecdotally, is super excited about the Mets and about all the energy and Mr. Cohen and everything. So coming off of the 2020 season that wasn't, the 2021 season that was just weird for everybody, we really had a lot of momentum going into after the 2019 season, the first year with the Mets on the field and then the stadium renovations. We kind of got abrupted by that with COVID in 2020 and 2021. But so it's exciting right now to really have ourselves stretched out and ready for a season. And we've made some adjustments to get ready for it. So we're way ahead of ourselves right now. Normally we make all these announcements about promotions in March at our open house, which we intend to do, but we like to keep it fresh and make some adjustments. So we decided to let the cats out of the bag early. On the ticket side, we've not raised any of the ticket prices. We still have the best deal in town. It's Flex Plan season right now. It's the $10 ticket plan. We can get 10 vouchers for $100 sitting any seat at any game. We're selling our groups and hospitalities right now. The Metropolitan Club is sold out for all of the Fridays. Most of the other big days are selling out. So our party areas and hospitality and groups are going well. Season tickets are going really well. We're in season ticket season right now. And obviously we're selling our suites. So individual tickets don't go on sale until March, but we're obviously selling the flex plans and suites and the groups and hospitalities, and that's coming along well. And a lot of it's based on the excitement of the Mets and excitement of our new promotions. So we just reached out, announced the promotions yesterday, and highlighted by the first year of working directly with Marvel, the Defenders of the Diamond. Actually going to announce here on this call that we decided to do a second Marvel superhero day, which we'll announce that second day and that superhero later. We got a lot of instant feedback on social media about the association with Marvel. But we got more about Leslie David Baker from The Office coming out to the place you used to go to work day, since we're all working remotely these days. So that's going to be very exciting. We're going to participate in Copa this year. So that's going to be exciting. We'll make that announcement later, our new identity with the Copa program across the minor leagues. And so much more. Obviously, 23 fireworks nights, the Little League Day back together, the education days, the barks in the parks. Our days of the week are going to continue. Taco Tuesdays, new for this year. All you can eat Wednesdays. Dollar Thursdays coming back. Craft Beer Fridays coming back. This year, we're going to be Salt City Saturdays. Last year was very successful, becoming the Salt City Mets. in association with the history of Syracuse and our association with Salt. So we'll wear special uniforms on Salt City Saturdays, and then bring back Kids Eat Free and running the bases, which took a COVID break last year. Hopefully running the bases will come back this year. So on our side, we're just super excited. You know, we think that we do something that nobody else does. We have the highest level of professional athlete here in the area other than the major leagues. And there's just no more affordable, family fun place. You get to come out and see the stars of tomorrow, the stars of today, right here. I mean, everybody comes through here. You can see these guys the next night on SNY when the Mets are playing. When I went to a Mets game last year, there were 7 guys that were on our team in the starting lineup. So it's exciting, and we just think that we deliver, you know, the best baseball, the best affordable family fun in the best stadium, and we can't wait for the 2022 season to start. So enough of my jibber jabbering about tickets and promotions. You know, we're really here to talk about baseball. So thank you all for coming on. And, you know, if you have any questions, just reach out to Michael and myself, and we'll get you whatever you need.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason. And now to talk about a little bit of the importance of the relationship between Syracuse and New York. Here's New York Mets team president, Sandy Alderson.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. Look, I think that just having this call should reflect to everyone the importance that Syracuse represents to us at the Mets. We talking to Billy and Buck, and they will address this, I'm sure, later. But, you know, we have 2 purposes for our minor league system. We want to develop players, but part of that development means that, secondly, we want to win. And I know that we haven't been terribly successful on the field in Syracuse the last couple of years, but I think that's going to begin to change, in part because we have graduating prospects who we think are going to be impactful at the Syracuse level, and in part because we've spent a lot of time and now have a real emphasis on making sure that we have enough depth for our major league club to account for injuries and other issues that arise during the course of a season. And in having that depth, it's going to add, I think, immeasurably to the quality of the team in Syracuse. So, you know, we're excited about 2022. Our relationship with Syracuse has been great, but we hope to improve it through a winning type commitment that is reflected here in New York, as well as we hope throughout the system. So Syracuse is going to be integral to all of that and to our sustained success at the major league level through a top-notch minor league system. It starts with players, but also includes our coaching staff and variety of support people that we're providing. This year, our staff at Syracuse will be significantly expanded to try to incorporate, different types of development resources for our players. So all in all, we're excited about the season. And one great thing is we know it's going to happen. So, all of us on this call from New York might be in Syracuse on April 5th. Who knows? Because that may be the only game, not in town, but in the state. So we'll see. In any event, happy to be here, and thank everybody for attending.
All right. Thank you so much, Sandy. Just about to get to questions. Any media that has questions, please use the raise hand function. I'll call on you. You can unmute and ask your questions. Just please make sure you direct them to the person that you want to answer that question. And I just want to remind you, because of the lockout, we can't discuss players who are on the 40-man roster. Nothing really about the lockout itself. If you do have questions or want information, regarding that, if you do have something that you're not sure of, then please direct those to Harold, who's on this call. And if you need Harold's contact information, you can also reach him through me. So just start out. Lindsey Kramer, you can go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your questions.
Well, hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for taking some time this afternoon. I'd like to follow up on the comment you just made about the 2 seasons here in Syracuse, the 2 seasons on the field, obviously not counting the one in between with COVID. The first year was very successful, almost a playoff team, and then you mentioned last year. I know that, but the past 2 years were kind of difficult as far as ticket sales, attendance. 2 years ago, obviously, there's no season. Last year, there was ticket restrictions. Takes a bit of a financial toll on the organization. Does that financial hit reflect in any way what you're able to do in Syracuse or players are able to sign for the team? I mean, it is a big toll on everybody. I'm just curious where we stand financially in New York and in Syracuse.
I think the short answer is that no, nothing financially that may have occurred in Syracuse is going to have any impact whatsoever on the amount of resources we apply to Syracuse. Syracuse is an integral part of our overall organization, as is Port St. Lucie, as well as Brooklyn. But in terms of how each of those individual clubs performs on a financial basis, obviously it's important to Jason and others, but at the same time, it isn't going to reduce our commitment to Syracuse or to Brooklyn or to Port St. Lucie whatsoever. In fact, it may cause us to redouble our efforts in order to offset some of the other things that may have been going on. So, we're making investments, as I said, in staff. We're making investments in equipment, be substantially more equipment in the weight room than we've had before. Our performance staff at Syracuse will have access to more instrumentation and software. So from our standpoint, we are continuing to upgrade at the major league level as well as throughout our minor league system. And I hope that gets reflected in the ability of our players to stay healthy and stay on the field, in our ability to put a winning team there in Syracuse, and in our ability to continue to develop our players because of that good health and winning environment.
And does that apply to whatever the budget is for signing minor league free agents as well?
What budget?
Or however much you need to spend on players.
No. Look, we've been very aggressive in the minor league free agent market, for example, I expect we will continue to be even during this period. No, that hasn't had any impact at all on player payroll at Syracuse or any of our facilities. As I said, we want to win. And in some cases, it's not just about your prospects. It's about all of your supplemental players who are organizational, quote unquote, but can contribute to a winning team and even a winning culture. So we recognize the value of those players and, have stepped up accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Got a question in here for Buck Showalter. Buck, and I guess I'll preface this by adding in that I know you had mentioned you started a season one time in London, Ontario. So with some of the colder weather, and I asked this question as I look out from the press box to a field covered in snow, while hopefully you and Billy are enjoying some warmer weather in St. Lucie. But what's it like having to start a season in the colder weather, and how does that affect player development, whether it be the position players or probably especially the pitching staff?
Well, I think in some terms, it's probably good because we love a place that simulates what they're going to be faced with in New York. And there's not a whole lot of difference in the weather. It's part of being a Met and part of playing in the big leagues, and especially the National League East, that you're going to have that challenge. So, you talk about London, Ontario, best one game I've ever seen one player have. Opening day, Deion Sanders, I called the ballpark and I said, hey, we're not playing today. What time's the doubleheader tomorrow? I said, oh yeah, we're playing. 34 degrees game time. Ice on the field. Deion has a triple, I think a double, home run, makes a sliding catch in the ice off Travis Fryman with the bases loaded to end the game. Not that I remember it, but other than that, no, I actually try to treat it as an advantage to having AAA and AA in Binghamton, Syracuse, Brooklyn, because we love the idea that we simulate things that they're going to be faced with in the big leagues.
and Billy, for you, Sandy had mentioned, you guys can be aggressive in going out and getting players. How is that aggressiveness in just the short time that you've been general manager here helped you in what you're trying to build, both in New York, but also in a minor league system?
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I look at that AAA roster. That is our immediate source and for player transactions. That's our pool. Even sometimes it's not always an injury that makes that transaction. There can be players that are performing exceptionally well at AAA, and as we walk through the vetting process and evaluation process that encapsulates our pro scouting group and our development coaches and coordinators and a portion of our analytics staff, we might identify players down there that we think could outperform a player that's in New York, and we would make that transaction. So I look at that AAA roster. It is the second most important roster for what we're trying to achieve, at the major league level. I carry around this application with me that'll have the major league schedule and AAA schedule and AA schedule and what the starting pitchers are at every single level. And as we're looking forward to a series that we're going to play, you might see us jockey a starting pitcher or two around in Syracuse so that we can be better armed for what we need to do at the major league level. We want to win in AAA. We want to have the best players in AAA because anything that goes on, that's our source of depth. So I'm very thankful that we're able to kind of push the upper limits of the payroll there and go out and source those players. But I'll also say that it's also very refreshing when you look at that AAA roster and you see a lot of players drafted or signed internationally from the Mets, amateur scouting departments. I think there's a sense of morale that comes inside the whole organization because you think about all the people that have touched that player from the moment they were identified in Venezuela or the Dominican or, at University of Georgia or wherever they come from, and think about all the people that have impacted that player. So it's not just about free agency, but we definitely want to have a strong team there that, we can count on if we need those players in New York.
Great, thanks. Got one question here for Ronnie, and then I'll go back to you, Lindsay. Ronnie, just in terms of Kevin Bowles, who's going to be managing here in Syracuse, what is it about Kevin that you're kind of looking forward to? Why was he the right guy for this position? I know he's someone who's managed a lot, and he's managed a lot in AAA, including having won a league championship in AAA. So just what is it about Kevin that you're looking forward to having him here in Syracuse at the AAA level for the Mets?
Well, you hit it right on the head. So when we're looking for somebody to take over that AAA spot, we were looking for a great leader, a great communicator, somebody with plenty of experience in a high-profile, high-pressure environment, developing players and winning. And Bowlesy fit all those criteria, and that's why he was a fit for the position.
Perfect. Thank you. Lindsay, go ahead and ask your questions.
Yeah. Hi, Billy. Good to see you. Hopefully get a chance to see you here in Syracuse, although, now the expense of Major League Baseball over there in New York. So quick question for you. I'd like to follow up with you on the minor league system and what you've seen in the evolution of the system from your tenure. I'm not asking you to talk about any specific players, but where is the minor league system now, specifically when it comes to young AAA ready prospects?
Well, thanks for the question first, Lindsay, and look forward to meeting you when I get up there, because I will. I love making the trips to the affiliates, but I'll qualify that because I haven't had an opportunity to really lay my eyes on a lot of the players inside the Mets system, but I do like to look at some of the outside views. So you'll look at some of the other outlets that put out their top 100 lists and so on and so forth. And I, generally see 3 to 4 names, in the Met system, on those lists. And, this coming draft, for example, we're looking to have a number of picks, and we'll be able to reinforce that system. But, the hope is, this year, this time next year, we have 6, 7, 8 in that top 100. But, 4's a pretty good start. And so, we'll just always continue to find depth, or, look for depth and acquire players wherever we can. Steve Cohen's even expressed a willingness to be opportunistic and see if there's opportunities to procure talent from other organizations. Once we're obviously in a transaction freeze right now, so that's not something that we can do immediately. But the system is strong, and we're always going to look to make it stronger. I'd love to perennially say we're inside the top 10, top 7 in baseball. That would be a big step towards our goal of sustainability, at the major league level. And then at that point, you're just using free agency for opportunities, not to fill needs. So.
Yeah, free agency. I know in 2019, before your time, but the organization was almost perfect in AAA free agents, signing key guys that helped a lot and helped a little bit in New York too. So again, without any specific names, you guys, or what is your philosophy when it comes to what sort of veteran AAA free agents you might look for or would look for?
The process starts with talking to your player development system, and evaluating. You'll run through pro scouting, evaluate our players. And so they'll look at our system and file reports on our entire system. We'll get the feedback from the coordinators, talk to player development, leadership, and then identify who's ready for AAA inside of our system. And one of the things that I like to think about is if anybody's starting in AAA, if they're in our start, they should be able to go up to the major leagues and be able to play for 15 days if we need them to play for 15 days at the major league level. And so we want to be able to identify those players, and then we'll look at our depth chart and say, where do we need to supplement? Traditionally speaking, I come from a fairly old school scouting background, where you're looking for speed and defense up the middle and power on the corners. It's not a very complicated formula, but generally players that on the offensive side make good swing decisions and can get on base, and then with pitchers, looking for guys that have the ability to make their pitches behave, locate, and can execute their pitches. So that's what we're trying to do in building that. And so just every year it kind of changes depending on where the depth is and what we can satisfy internally.
Okay, thank you.
Buck, for you, when you were a minor league manager, what was your relationship with the major league manager, and what do you hope your relationship with the lower level coaching staffs or managers, could be? A phone call here or there, a text, what is that relationship like, if any? I know sometimes you could be strapped for time.
Well, obviously my priority is, the 26 players we have in the big leagues, and I'll always take precedent. But, there's many a time I remember getting calls from different people, obviously the Yankees, I wasn't getting calls from Dallas Green or Billy Martin, or you were hoping at that stage not to get any phone calls. Okay. There was something called a Watts line. No, but I love, somebody's lost 3 or 4 games in a row or having some tough times. I might lob, Bolsey a call coming in, and he should feel comfortable doing that with me too. But, there's a connection there. It's a family, we're at the mercy of those guys. It's like Billy said, it's an extension of our roster in New York, much like Binghamton is an extension of Syracuse. So we're all in this together. And I think I'm lucky to have walked in his shoes and walked in everybody's shoes. It seems like to understand the empathy you have for what they go through. But we're all trying to get to the end game, and I'd love to see the Syracuse club not only be competitive but win, just very much like our club in New York. So, we know what the job description is. It's win games and develop players. Sometimes we're doing that in the big leagues too. I want to be able to assume things that when somebody comes to our system, I feel real confident with the leadership we have in place that I'll be able to do that.
If you found every player is different, but the way that you develop a player as a manager, do you have sort of a philosophy in that sense?
I think you answered it. Every guy's different. It's about the players. You try to figure out how to, there's a process you go through with guys, and they're not all the same. Thank goodness. It'd be real boring, and there wouldn't be a need for people to bring a certain skill set to get to, where what's good for Bernie Williams may not be good for Derek Jeter. You try to keep in mind young players I've had through the system that, and you ask a lot of questions, people that are as smart, if not smarter, and have more experience with that player. And you're trying to get, a little cheat sheet, so to speak. And it's important that players know you care and that you've done your work on them and you listen. So, developing players is fun. I get a little jealous because I think sometimes in minor leagues, you get to see a day-to-day return for the things you're doing with them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Whereas sometimes in the big leagues, the process sometimes takes a little bit longer, and we're trying to win every day and every inning and every off game, so to speak. But it's a fascinating responsibility. So, you got the right people in place. It's beautiful to watch. It's fun to watch, and the only thing you want your players to be challenged by is the level of play on the field. And I think Billy and our group will and have done a good job of eliminating a lot of those so-called excuses you might have to not be as good as you can be.
Thanks, Buck. Another question here, this one for Ronnie. In terms of developing players in the minor league system and your relationship, not just with the players, but also the coaching staffs, what is that dynamic like just in terms of what your job is in trying to help develop that talent and work with those coaching staffs to find out, how the progress is going and how guys are playing?
Well, in my specific role, I work hand in hand with all our staff across coaching staff, performance staff, just making sure, everything's in place for them to be successful, mostly off the field, but I'm in communication and assist Kevin Howard and Jeremy Barnes in his previous post in assuring that everything's lined up to make sure the team is successful on the field.
Great, thank you. And another one here, actually, both for Billy and Buck. How have you guys been able to, with the lockout, it might give you more time to concentrate on some other things that you might not be able to necessarily concentrate on while you're dealing with players and all that, but with that part of it off the table because of the lockout, what have you guys been able to concentrate on and plan for with that extra time? I suppose, how have you utilized that is the question.
Well, we spent a good portion of the time since you started interviewing people.
Yeah.
Did a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
Filled out a coaching staff. And now we're able to really plug into the different departments. I mean, Buck's on about 2-3 Zoom calls a day, probably with the Major League Strategy Group. That's like an arm of our analytics department. Just understanding the tools that the organization's provided in the past, and then trying to understand what tools Buck and the rest of the coaching staff would want to use so that we can have the time to change those or customize those tools. We've been in New York this week, taking a tour of Citi Field, walked around the clubhouse a couple different times. We've just done the same thing today, kind of fragmented a little bit here in Port St. Lucie today. We haven't had a long stretch yet to be able to do it, but we've walked the fields a little bit. Buck just got back from the minor league complex, walked the major league complex here for a little while. And so we're just really trying to make sure we connect with every department. And then in my specific space, there's, about 10 different baseball operations departments. So I'm now getting some time to dive into each one of those, understand some of the processes and the tools that each specific department has. So.
Yeah, my first grade teacher, Miss Monk, she used to have this thing on your report card that uses your time wisely, and you wanted to get a check in that thing, and I was able to, but it took like, so I think that's really what, Billy and I, it's just precious time, and shame on us if we waste it, whether it's, relationships, getting to know things, but I think I've spent most of it trying to get to know the players and what their needs are going to be, and have an open mind about it. Some things I've kind of said, I want to make up my own mind about it a little bit, so to speak. And I think the players feed off that fresh look at them. But, I'm following the lead, but I'm about the players. I'm about I know, what end game's supposed to be here. So any way I can help, like today's call, this is an honor to be on. But at the end of the day, it's about the players, and not only the 26, but the extension of that, because we'd like to be a self-sustaining organization. I think, the sustainability of quality, we got to get there first and then sustain it. I think I've got the greatest affinity for people and coaches and teams and organizations that win when they're expected to win. And we're not at that stage now, even though we're expecting it, because everybody has those expectations. That's why we get up in the morning. But, the ability to sustain it is only done by the things that, Billy and Sandy and ownership are attacking right now.
Great. Looking forward to seeing what you guys can do with that. Just a couple more minutes here, and some other questions that have been submitted, just a few more. This one maybe either for Billy or Ronnie, just in terms of analytics. Obviously they play a huge role in the major leagues, but I think some people are just starting to realize how much analytics are actually used at the minor league levels as well. And I know we got, whether it's TrackMan or these new high-speed cameras put up even in the ballpark here in Syracuse. How has that been utilized, and what growth has that seen here in the minor leagues? Maybe Ronnie, during your time here with the New York Mets, but also I guess for Billy, just how you hope to use that or see the lower levels utilize that. It's Ronnie, we can start with you.
Yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
So yeah, no, in my time, I've seen, it grow exponentially, from, just development focus where you're using your eyes, you're using your feel, their experience to work with the players, to now all the tracking technology that's being utilized, both for the performance side and then, ball tracking, bat tracking side. That gives our coaches that much more information to play off of and to work with, and to be able to tweak things both in game and in practice. So it's been utilized at a greater and greater level, to the point that we're, adjusting our staffs and beefing up our staffs to make sure we can do that at all levels, all the way in the minor leagues, in the Dominican complex, the complex here in Port St. Lucie, and all the way up to AAA.
Thanks, Billy.
Yeah. Well said. It serves, a couple purposes. Clearly the developmental purpose, so that we can understand, how we might be able to enhance or optimize a player. I have a very simple definition of what I think good coaching is. I think good coaching is getting a player to optimal as quickly as possible. And, at the major league level, they can start to wobble. Everybody does. And when we're in a situation where we can use some of those tools to optimize a player quick, in a quicker fashion, that means things. That means runs prevention, which ultimately leads to wins. On the development side, it serves that purpose in the minor leagues for developing a player, getting that player to optimal, in a quicker fashion. But also it serves an evaluative purpose too, because we want to make sure we're still looking at what other clubs have. So if we have some of that ball tracking, batted ball tracking, player tracking technology, that's just going to help narrow our error bars on our decision making. So it's a very valuable tool and one we're committed to using.
Now, one thing I would add, Michael, is you have to capture the information, you have to interpret the information, and then you have to apply the interpretation. And one of the reasons that minor league baseball didn't have a lot of analytically driven teams in past years is because there was no data collection. You have to be able to capture the data in order to interpret and then apply it. And so that's changed pretty dramatically, and it's certainly changed in our organization. I mean, we've got a number of different ways to capture information now. Then it's important for us to have people who can interpret it, and that's where beefed up staffs at each of our affiliates come into play. There have to be, knowledgeable people who are able to interpret this information. And then once it's interpreted, it has to be applied, and that's where the coaching staff comes in. They have to be able to translate this information for the benefit of the players and make it actionable. So all of those elements are important, and we definitely have the hardware and the technology. We're providing now the interpreters, and in the meantime, we have to make sure that our coaching staff is capable of taking that information and applying it, and that's where Kevin Howard, Billy, and so forth are making big strides. Is making sure that we have the team necessary to use that information at every level.
And going off that, Sandy, who are those? What kind of people, I guess, who are those people behind the scenes? I know Syracuse University just introduced a data analytics course. What kind of people are in those roles? What are their backgrounds, I suppose? Like if someone was going for that, who is the type of person you're looking for, just so people get an understanding of kind of who those people are behind the scenes?
Well, Billy might want to comment on this as well. When we initially started this plan at the minor league level, we ended up with individuals who were predominantly baseball oriented as opposed to tech oriented in these particular roles. Not sure that worked as well as we would have liked. So for the most part, these additional people who have responsibility in this sort of information area are more tech oriented, which means that almost anybody can do the job. You don't have to have a baseball background. You don't have to be a former player. You just have to be proficient in this particular area. And that's where the graduates that you speak of at Syracuse can come into play. And we're looking to develop people from that very outset. We're starting something here called the Mets Academy, where we, bring in young people in a variety of entry positions, and then continue to provide, growth opportunities, professional development, continuing education, so that they can move up the chain. This is important for a lot of reasons, including reasons of diversity, which we feel pretty strongly about. So it's going to be exciting to see how it all comes together this year. But it's you'll notice that the staffs are a little larger at each of the affiliates. In fact, we will have a sort of a tech person and a baseball development coach as well that Billy might want to comment upon.
Yeah, to piggyback on Sandy, he's exactly right. Looking for people that have high technical chops to be able to understand the data that's coming in, and then interpret that data, kind of build it out through the modeling, and then having the people that can kind of understand those models, and then how it's applied to the coaching aspect. It also depends on the data that you're capturing, because some of it will be a little bit more performance related data. When I say performance related data, I'm talking about things that you might capture through GPS or things that you might capture inside of in not only in GPS but also in the weight room. And so somebody that maybe has a background in biomechanics, somebody that has an exercise science or kinesiology background, there's ways to apply that data for the coaching as well. And so you want to be able to converge all of those kind of disciplines into something actionable that can be taught by one of the on-field or uniformed coaches. So there's a variety of backgrounds that we use, and we want a very diverse set of skills to make sure we have the kind of the player covered in a 360-degree fashion.
Great.
One last thing I would add, you brought up Syracuse University and the data analytics class or department that they're creating. It would be great for us through the Syracuse Mets to connect with Syracuse and provide speakers, guest lecturers, ways that, if there are programs at Syracuse University that we can enhance in some way through guest appearances or what have you, and do that through the Mets, the Syracuse Mets as a conduit. That sounds like a win-win for everybody. So keep that in mind, because we've got a lot of expertise and we'd love to share it and share it with the rest of your community, not just with Syracuse Mets.
I think that would be great. Thank you on that. Going to be wrapping up here. I only have one more question. I'll also give a chance if there's anyone in the media that wants to ask a last question here, just put that hand up. But the last question here is for Buck. Buck, when you're putting together your coaching staff, and obviously it's not just you, you have a team, Billy, is part of that as well. But when you're looking for the guys that you want to surround yourself with to make those everyday decisions, what goes into that decision in compiling the staff that you currently have?
Well, it's a collaboration. Billy and I and a number of people were involved in going through this process. But the first thing is serving the needs of the players. That's what we're here for. We're trying to make them better players and create an environment where they can be the best they can be. And the investment that the fans have in our team. We looked at it from inside out. In other words, look at the players and what they're going to need. And then we made sure that, this is, I think, one of the more well-rounded staffs I've had as far as being able to bring a lot of different angles, so to speak, and I could get into all the things you look for and you want to go, other than just catching, hitting, pitching, infield play, outfield play, base running, but there's some other parts of that, arteries of those things that you got to be good at too. And, it took a while. It was a lot of diligence and, but it's like Billy and I said a couple of times, we don't be looking around in May or June and go, why didn't we take more time? Why weren't we more diligent? Why didn't we make more phone calls? Why didn't, and they passed through a strong background check and with all that being said, we'll see what the season brings. There's some challenges there. And like I tell players and coaches, not just anybody can do this. What do you bring that separates you? And we think we've got some guys that are difference makers and separators.
Great, thank you. Well, in lieu of any other questions, I think that will do it for us during this Zoom media session. I think we checked the used time wisely box. I hope everyone else feels the same way. So thank you again to everyone that participated on this call, and look forward to staying in touch. Again, if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Harold as well. So thanks again, everybody.